The video you are about to watch was produced by Rural Mission Solutions and is a recording of a webinar that was held in August 2016. It features missional ideas for autumn months and is part of a series of 4 videos, one on spring, another on summer, autumn and winter. The others are making their way onto the YouTube channel, so we hope you'll watch them. The presenters for this webinar were myself, Barry Osborne, and Captain Gordon Banks. We both are part of the Rural Evangelism Network.
So let's move into our presentation with missional ideas for the autumn months. Of course, autumn brings a very special season. There are some things that are special about the season, but also there are a number of things that are significant about the church cycle. I'm going to ask Gordon to tell us something about the concept of seasonal mission. Thank you, Gordon.
Good morning, everybody. Blessings to you, Barry, and blessings to everybody this morning. Yes, the rural cycle, seasons and cycle. Basically, we first lay down how the year is viewed by most people. In the UK, we begin with a spring term running through to Easter, summer term, then we think about summer holidays, August, September, exam results and all of that, and uni, leaving old schools, starting new schools. Into the darker months, we begin with Halloween, bonfire night, remembrance, and maybe in there as well, there's Christmas. And so we've got that laid down, and then we overlay that with the church's year and the main festivals. So Epiphany, Lent, Easter, Pentecost, Harvest and Remembrance, and All Souls and All Saints there, Advent and Christmas. And then finally on those two, we overlay anything happening as either a one-off or a regular event internationally. We've just had the Olympics, and I know some people have really taken the opportunity to have some events focused around the Olympics. So there could be something internationally, or it could be a national event, or locally for points of engagement that sits in the natural flow. That's what we're looking for, to create heartbeats, not hiccup. What's happening internationally, what's happening nationally, what's happening in your locality, either as one-offs or regular events. And so we try and create mission initiatives within that flow. Remembering, of course, that God does not necessarily work to our plans, so we always need contingency plans. So, for example, it may not be the best thing if somebody has become a Christian to say, oh, you have to wait until we have a new disciples plan. But basically, we can set up this flow and think about the way that people sit with that as well. So that's the broad idea. And Barry, you're going to now pick up with some of the main events of autumn.
Okay. Now, we've identified 5 key issues that we're going to talk to in this presentation. The start of the academic year, Harvest Thanksgiving, Halloween, Bonfire Night and Remembrance Day. So we're going to talk particularly to those, but there may be other things. But remember, there is the opportunity of the forum or asking questions and coming in later on. Now we're going to ask you to take part in a poll now. So the poll will start in a moment, and we're going to ask you to respond to some questions. Now, I don't think the poll has appeared on your screens. You just bear with me just a moment. I don't know whether that will launch it. I think I need help from Gordon as to whether or not we've actually got the poll running. If the poll is not running, then I think we will ignore it on this occasion. But the poll was to actually ask you a question whether, let's just try and see if that will launch. There we go. I think you should have a poll on your screen now asking you, does your church regularly undertake intentional mission with regard to these occasions? Now, by this we mean not just that you hold something, but that you hold it in some way to help people discover something of God's love, to hear something of the gospel message. So you're seeking to use it in mission in some ways, perhaps overtly in evangelism, but not necessarily, but you're using it as an occasion to engage with the community more openly than you might. So it's not just about inviting people to come to your Harvest Thanksgiving, but something much more than that. So do you do that, and do you do it regularly, sometimes, occasionally, or never at all? So sorry you hadn't seen the screen, but you should now see it, and I will see your response. So if you can respond to that quite quickly, as some of you are, or you're being very, very good. Okay, we're getting an interesting response. I'll be able to show you the outcome of that. Okay, my screen is actually showing me that most of you do things sometimes. Actually, 5%, 20% rather, do things on a regular basis. So just to show you, I'm not sure whether everybody has finished, but I'll show you the results of that now. So I'll just share that with you so that you can see the outcome from the poll. Very interesting. So I think 21% doing something intentionally missional on these events is very, very encouraging indeed. Right, let's move on with the presentation. Gordon, if anything is going wrong on the screen, let me know, please. And we're going to talk about the start of the academic year. Now, there are two parts that we want to talk about: local village schools for primary children, secondary children, but also we'll say something about university as well. Now, if you are from a village, then I do hope you still got a village school. If you haven't got a village school, maybe your next village will have. I want to say, are you engaged with this? Now, this is one of the things that's really, really important, that you engage with your village school, that you know who the teachers are, you know what the issues are that they're facing, and that they know you're there to back them up in prayer and to support and encourage and help to resource them. So the link between church and school is really, really important. Encourage the stuff. There's lots of ways you can do that. Gordon, tell us about Pray, Bake and Read.
Pray, Bake and Read, Barry, is an initiative by Libby Leet in the Diocese of Lichfield, and the contact details are on the handout. And we're not precious about this particular resource, but the idea is that a lot of people will pray for the schools, but do they pray intentionally? So the idea is to go into the school, engage with them, and ask if there's anything particular they might want prayer for. It could be something that they're facing at the moment that they would welcome prayer for. And then ask if you're okay for sharing the information wider. So you begin to bring the idea that we're supporting the church or the school in the church. So the intercessions on a Sunday perhaps. And then as you engage with the school, take in a freshly baked cake for the staff room. They'll really love you for that. I have a wife and a son who are a teacher, and I know how much cakes are welcomed in the staff room. And then have a group of people who are willing to listen to the children, so reading as well. So prayer, bake and read. And as I said, Libby Leach in the Diocese of Lichfield, more than happy to help you and engage and to think about all that might mean as you engage with the local school.
Thank you,
Barry,
Gordon.
a couple of other ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon, for that. Not long ago, we used, during part of the year, had a special prayer mission week, and on one day we prayed for all our schools and found out what their special needs were and prayed, and the schools were very grateful to know that we were praying for them. So to say other things, just to say, open the book, prayer spaces. These are various activity things that some of you will know very well. The information is on the handout, so you can find out more about that. My apologies that I think some of you lost the screen during that a few moments ago, but hopefully we're all back on the screen and everything is working fine. Materials, there are resources available, of course. Scripture Union, probably the best resource for children's work, and there's a huge amount on the handout about Scripture Union, and we have all their URLs so that you can go to their websites. Don't worry about trying to write it down. It's on the handout at the end. Just want to say something about Messy Church, Gordon?
Just Messy Church again. They I mean, everybody knows this pretty well now, and it is good at that. The good thing about Messy Church, picking up what we were talking about rural cycling earlier, is that they do have seasonal material. So there is Messy Harvest, and also various events that run through. So do check that out. But I'm sure it's pretty familiar with most folks.
Thank you. Okay, so again, all the links, all the resources, and if you find anything else, always let us know. We're only too pleased to pass information on to others. So moving on, let's turn our thoughts to those going to university and college. Now, this is a big step in the life of any individual. And if you've got young people in your community, not just in your church, but in your community who are going off to university, well, now is a time that you can offer some pastoral support and help. I'm very keen on encouraging people to do pastoral work evangelistically and evangelism pastorally if you're in a rural situation. So here's your opportunity to engage with young people and let them know that you will support them in prayer and that you hope they'll have a great time and it'll be a great experience. Be aware that for some, going off to university means releasing from certain restraints, excuse me, and can get them into trouble. Others, it's an opportunity of discovering faith. Maintain a link with them. Try and keep a contact, maybe through Facebook or something like that. Take an interest in how things are going. Let them know you're there all the time to support. You can also serve as an introductory agency, find out what the local churches are like, put them in touch, even if it means a different denomination to your own. So get behind those going off to university at this time. Gordon, what's this empty nest?
And of course, there are not just those going to university, but there's big changes for those left behind, the empty nesters. And having gone through this myself, it really does begin to move things around for you as a family. And we're not always good at church at recognizing these life-changing events. So is there a way that you could support them? Perhaps if there are a few folk who are empty nesters, you could bring them together for a social event, and certainly offer to pray for them as they adapt to this change in their lives. And also just underneath there, with care, be aware that, of course, they may have more time now available. There may be some other activities that you might want to draw them into, but it's about supporting them and letting the church know that you're caring for them at this time of a life-changing event for them as well.
Gordon, that brings us to the point about what's the point of mission, isn't it, really? And you had said in your introduction about the importance of mission being about blessing other people and the biblical mandate for that, of course. But very often we tend to think of mission as how can we get people into church? How can we increase our attendance? And that's not what it's about. It's about blessing other people. My experience in rural ministry is that when we show that we genuinely care and we want to bless and encourage and help people in the community, then it opens up opportunities. People have an interest in the things of God. They're likely to ask about faith. They're likely to want to come to an Alpha course and so on. So just not doing it in order to gain out of it, but just because people have a need in their lives and we can help do something about that. So important. So the empty nesters is a great idea. Again, quickly on resources, UCCF. Most people will know about the University and Colleges Christian Fellowship. This is a fundamental key organization. And again, any young people from your community going to university, put them in touch with UCCF, tell them how to find them, show them the web links and so on. They've got some brilliant, really brilliant videos that are very helpful. Christians that are going off ought to link up with UCCF. They'll find a branch wherever they go. There's a wonderful blog on their website welcoming people to uni life. So again, great resources. So all of those things. So again, just to reflect on the academic year, your local school, engage, support, get involved, offer help, pray for them regularly, and also uni, getting behind those going and those that are being left behind. Not much time to talk about free cycling. Very quickly, Gordon.
Yep, just to say that we all know the expense of buying uniforms and bits and pieces, so run an event over several hours, invite folks to bring stuff in that's still serviceable, take what you do, bring in what you don't need, take what you want, tie it in perhaps with some refreshments and whatever, and an opportunity to talk about the whole thing around schools as well.
Now that could be done as a kind of, if you're an Anglican and you've got a multi-parish benefice, it could be done on that basis, or you can do it ecumenically, couldn't you? You could put on a special event, find who's got the best hall in the best location, and put on a really good event, and then have information about your church life, the things that you do, the next big event in your church calendar, whatever, things about who's who to contact if people need a pastoral visit, all that sort of thing. Great opportunities there. So we move to our next key event, which is Harvest. And my first question is, do you include the local farmers? Now, not everybody does, and I've made a point at harvest time of using that as an opportunity to write to farmers to say thank you for all you do. These are people who work in all weathers and on whom we depend for life. So saying thank you is really important. And I had a wonderful feedback. We had lots of farmers turned up the first time I did this. Lots of farmers came to church for our harvest Thanksgiving. And many said, yours was the first nice letter we've had in the post for months. And they get these brown letters with things from the government and complaints and moans and so on. So to get something nice saying thank you is really tremendous. So find out who are your farmers, write them a nice thank you letter from the church or the churches, and make sure they know you appreciate them, because we do depend on them. Another little interesting idea, if you want to do something different for harvest, one church in a market town ran a thing called the Harvest of Talents. And what they did was they asked all the members of their church to think about what skills, gifts, talents they possessed. Now, some had musical talents, some had secretarial abilities, some can do sewing, all sorts of things. So they worked on whatever their skills were, and they all had things like shoe boxes. Doesn't have to be a shoe box, a small box. They decorated the box. They put inside information about what they could do, and also contact details if they wanted to do that. And sometimes they illustrated it, so they had little samples of what they did. This was fantastic. And then the church was decorated with all these boxes around the church, and people were invited to come in and explore the talents that were available. Now, you could open this out beyond your church. If you're in a village situation, you could do it for the whole village and have a harvest of talents for the whole village, and have people indicating whether or not they might be willing to help somebody if they want to learn how to do a certain skill or whatever. Great idea of sharing things and introducing people to Jesus in that way. So that worked very brilliantly. Now, Gordon is vegetarian, but he's going to say hogs.
Got me talking about a hog roast, eh? So do make sure there's an alternative to vegetarians as well. But a great idea. Again, one of the key thing for the church is to be that agent that brings sort of various bodies together. So here's an idea over the harvest time. Have a hog roast, link it in with a local pub. Could they bring in some nice guest ales, maybe some entertainment? Check out your young farmers clubs. This is the sort of thing that they love to organize and help with. It could be a fundraising effort that they might want to get engaged as well. So just thinking about being as a church that bring these people together to have a great evening of celebrating with the hog roast, entertainment, local ales, and raising some funds for charity as well.
Let's come back perhaps to, again, enlarge on the aspects of what we do and where we do it in a moment. But just to say, if you're looking for worship material for Harvest, you couldn't do better than go to the Arthur Rank Centre website, and if you follow the links through resources, then resources by categories, you come to Harvest. So a lot of material there. And while we're talking about that, just to remind people of the Germinate Conference, a one-day event in October. Information on that website about the Germinate Conference, a really special event held every other year. Okay.
Thinking about Harvest, Barry, continuing with that one, thinking about a Harvest service, what about who's going to speak there? and it may be that somebody in agriculture, you maybe get a local farmer. So, okay, they may not be that good at speaking, but could you interview them, ask them questions? What's life like as a farmer? We'd be surprised how many people that are in our rural areas still don't really understand what goes on farms. That's often the case. Then what about where you're going to hold the service? Well, again, we could think about the church, but why not think a bit broader? Think about maybe holding the service on a farm or in a barn or a local cattle market, or link it in with the farmer's market. Try and think, where can we take this and celebrate the goodness of God and the harvest outside in the community where that stuff's happening? And also just thinking about those links we talked about earlier, the British Food Fortnight, 17th September, 2nd of October, and there'll be the stuff on the website. So some folks in your pubs and your restaurants will be engaging with that anyway. So see if you can link in with what might be happening there. Back to you, Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. I'm just thinking about you suggesting of maybe getting a farmer to say something at a harvest service. And I think you're right about perhaps doing it by interview, because often farmers are not the best, they're a bit diffident, but might be prepared to talk about a day in the life of the farm. But if you've got a Christian farmer, you can do that in an interview, and then you could ask the question about how does your faith affect what you do? How does it relate? So you actually get some Christian testimony built into it. I'm always looking for the opportunities. Where can you work some Christian testimony in? People talk about what their faith means to them personally, makes a world of difference. We have a woman in our area who runs around with a mobile shop and does it as part of her mission. She'd be an ideal person to come as a guest and talk about what she does and why she does it, because she does it because she's motivated as a Christian. This is fun. You may have heard about something like this. It's been used for fundraising for projects overseas, but to have a harvest service with a difference and invite everybody to come in Wellington boots. Children will love to come in their Wellington boots. So having a boot emphasis in the service, you can think creatively and add things more than we put in. Flower displays. Why not have an autumn flower show and have all the flowers displayed in boots of different kinds? Why not offer a Saturday morning boot cleaning service and let everybody come along, clean their boots and have tea and coffee or whatever running while you're doing it? And then there's, of course, an opportunity to engage in welly wanging. I'm sure the village would be pleased to set up a welly wanging competition, and you could provide a prize for it. So various things that you could do. Think creatively, try and think out of the box. Think about who's involved, where you're going to have it. Let's do it differently this year. If not this year, next year. Gordon, can you talk to this for a few moments?
Yep, indeed, Barry. Where does it come from? Well, we know that a lot of our food that we enjoy comes from many parts of the world. So here's an idea, particularly linking in with Christian Aid, your local rep, I'm sure will be more than delighted to help you. Form prayer stations around your church with the item of food, the country of origin, and something about that, and items for prayer, so people might write prayers on post-it notes or candles, whatever, to sort of broaden it out as well. Also then think about linking in with the Farming Community Network. Some of you might remember that as the Farm Crisis Network. It changed its name a few years ago. And you should have a local group. You can contact them, and they may again come along and speak to you. Also, maybe useful if you're looking for somebody to support with any charitable work. They do a great piece of work across our farming communities. Barry, back to you. Are you there, Barry? So
I had turned my microphone off while I got a glass of water.
Okay, that's all right.
Link with
So
your
we're back
food bank. Okay, so this is really important. If you're going to have a fairly traditional harvest and people are going to bring produce, then link it with things like food bank, or if you've got a drop-in centre. Food bank won't want things like fruit and vegetables usually. They want tins and packaged food. Find out what particularly they want. You could distribute in advance a suggested list of things that people could buy in the weeks running up to it. But great to link in with things like food banks or drop-in centres. There's also a couple of resources which we put as part of the handouts, which you may have downloaded by now. One's called It's Not Fair, Learn to Share. Gordon has written this. and the other one is on the sower. Both are sort of activity-based things, ideal for family services, or you can use them in school assemblies. They work just as well in that kind of context, but there are the resources available. We're always looking out for things, and the Rural Evangelism Network website is happy to make things available on there. We'll say something about that later on. Let's move on to Halloween. Time is going and we want to move on quite quickly. Sorry if we are rushing some of these things you'd love to engage with. Remember, you can always add a question. We'll try and deal with it. Probably the best site. Gordon, you looked through all these possible websites for Halloween and you came back to the Evangelical Alliance.
The Evangelical Alliance is really good because it links you into a variety of other websites as well. But there are a couple of others as well, Barry. I think we've got them, some slides about them there.
We do, and just remind people that all these links should be in the handout, in the general handout with all the links. If you don't find something you want, the email addresses for Gordon and myself are there. Just let us know. Light Parties is a free resource from Scripture Union, and this is highlighted on their main landing page on their website, but they're very keen to share this, and there's a lot of free material that's available. This looks really, really good, and I'm so grateful. Scripture Union are members of the Rural Evangelism Network, which brings together representatives of churches with rural presence, whether that's at national or regional level, like a diocese or an association, a synod, and also organizations that resource or that are actual practitioners in rural evangelism. So it's a valuable site, and you'll find the link in the handout, and it will come up on the final slide. So use the Scripture Union. We're happy to commend that to you. Again, all the information in the handout. So let's move to the dreaded Halloween. Now, this is a challenge to churches. What do you do about Halloween? You know, our nation has got fascinated with the occult, hasn't it? And what do? You're going to run a protest, or you're going to use it as a positive opportunity? Gordon, what do you think?
And one of the ideas there, Barry, is that if you do have folks come around with this trick or treat, is to have bags available. But in the bags, not only sweets, but you could put gospels, imitations of vegetable service, other appropriate literature. Always make sure you've got something like a link to a website like www.christianity.org.uk, where they can find out. So if you do get any children on your door, then you can give them one of those bags as well to take away with them. And then, as Barry mentioned, the whole business of should we engage with this or shouldn't we? It's a bit of a hot potato. Should we read Harry Potter? What's the occult? And so the idea is that you discuss this hot potato while eating hot potato with various fillings. So make an event about it. And you could wrap around some simple worship and prayer around that. And there's a whole variety of ways you can run hot potato. You could eat hot potatoes and write some open questions around the subject. You could discuss the subject and then continue the discussion around with hot potatoes afterwards. Be aware of different ages, because some of this material that you'll be dealing with here in the occult is quite sensitive. So you just need to be a little bit careful of ages and how you're going to handle this, discussing this hot potato and eating some nice hot potatoes as well. Our local church does this and it goes down really well.
I think that's a really good idea. I think so often we back away from events which make us feel uncomfortable rather than saying, here's the opportunity, let's get in and do something. On the issue of suitable literature that you mentioned, Gordon, I found out that Scripture Union does have information, got some really good literature to do with Halloween as well. So there's giveaway material from Scripture Union. So we move on, bonfire night. Now, this is not a church event usually, even if you feel you would like to set it on fire. But bonfire night is a great community event. Most villages have a special bonfire. They may have a bonfire committee and do anything. So whatever you do, don't give any indication you want to take it over. But how about backing it up and doing things? Now, possibly no immediate evangelistic opportunity in this, but maybe it will lead to one. But there are things you could do. What could you do that adds value to the village bonfire night? Well, how about if you offer to do a refreshment stall? Maybe even to offer free hot dogs, or give people vouchers so they only claim one. But do something, that adds value to the party, and engage with it, and do so that's fine. And what about afterwards? Could you do something after the event? There's usually a lot of mess that wants clearing up. Find out if it's held on a farm. Is the farmer happy if you come in with some black bags and you clear up and sort out the rubbish? And that would not be a bad idea. But then you can link events. So the various events you could link, aren't they, Gordon?
Indeed, Barry. And this could be another good hot potato. Certainly in Lewes, then in Sussex, they make a great deal of bonfire, and sadly it still carries something of an anti-Roman Catholic bias to it. So, the religious intolerance between Catholics and Protestants isn't such as it was back at the time of Guy Fawkes, but there's still a lot of it around today with other faiths. So a hot potato to discuss about religious intolerance as well might be useful. And certainly in any activity, we're asking what next we could invite people to. So here on this one, you're thinking about perhaps inviting people to your next remembrance service, or even it's not too early to begin to start flagging up at something might be happening at Christmas as well. And then what about a film night? And making sure, of course, that you're legal, but there are various things that help with this. In Wivelsfield, again, in Sussex, in the village, they have a regular film night, and there's a thing from Arts Alive called Flicks in the Sticks, and also Damaris Media, which is a Christian organization that puts together contemporary films and offers all various resources for discussion about those various films that are around that people are seeing at the moment as well. So linking things in, seeing where it may go on from this one event of engaging with the community.
Gordon, if people aren't familiar with Flicks in the Sticks, that's worth Googling and finding out more about Flicks in the Sticks. And lots of churches have found ways in which they can show periodic family films. There are rules and regulations, as you've indicated, but it's worth doing it. Now, I've got a colleague who specialises in doing this down in the southwest of England, and I know that he'd be happy to share out of his experience. So do feel free to follow it up. One of the questions we've had was with regard to going back to Halloween and putting Christian literature in things. I think it's a good point. He said some parents would be a bit unhappy about suddenly finding their children's coming home with something. I think you use common sense. Find out what's available, and use common sense. If it's inappropriate, don't do it. If it is appropriate, take advantage of it. It's entirely up to you what to do about these things. But think about where there is opportunity to express something of God's love and mission. Obviously, you don't want them going home with something in the morning about the terrors of hell or something. Oh, I will go back on that just to say, one of the really good websites on Bonfire Night is Barnabas in Churches, and they have got a website. There's the link, should be in the handout, barnabasinchurches.org.uk, and they have got some useful things, I think, an outline for a family service based on Bonfire Night. So finally, we're going to talk about remembrance, and my first question is, does this need refreshing? I think that very often what happens each year is much the same as what happened last year, and what happens at the War Memorial probably does not need to change, and perhaps certainly ought never to change. But there are ways of perhaps thinking in fresh ways about Remembrance Sunday. So what might you do, and how might you link various things in? Well, in one of the villages where I've ministered, our local history group did a lot of research on people that were mentioned. In actual fact, we had an incident in which two planes collided over the village during the Second World War. One was a Canadian plane, one was a British plane. And so the history group researched this and found contacts with the family members and with the Canadian Air Force, Royal Air Force in Canada, And we made all sorts of connections, and so we were able to tell a story and personalize it. And we even set up an exhibition in the church with photos and articles, letters from family members, all sorts of things, and wartime memorabilia. People from the village brought in all sorts of things. And we had a tremendous exhibition, and we did this on a Saturday, and kept the exhibition, some of the exhibition, actually in the church, and we kept it open on the Sunday as well. It drew in a lot of people, and again, it's possible to link it in with people who have faith stories. I'm going to come back to Gordon on that in a moment, but another practical thing is obviously offering to clean up the war memorial. Just think of ways of new ways of engaging within your community, and maybe helping people handle the whole issue of loss at this time, and linking them in with bereavement groups. Not a bad thing to do. Always think of others, how it relates to schools, uniformed organisations. Get them involved if you can. Gordon, we found hope very helpful here, didn't we?
Indeed, lots of helpful material here, and picking up what we were talking about earlier about what's happening within the year. In this year will be on the 12th of October will be mark the centenary of Nurse Edith Cabal's execution, and lots of people have written about this Norfolk-born nurse, but none answer the questions: how could she be so calm and confident facing death? And a new book, Edith Cabal, Faith Before the Firing Squad, produced by Monarch at 8.99, has been written by Hope's communication director, Catherine Butcher. And so if you go on there, and that would be, that could be something that you could get and discuss around the church, and think about, well, how could she faith that, and where's our faith as well on that. So there's an interesting idea.
Thank you for that, Gordon. And again, all the information on the website, links for Hope and everything, you'll find on the handouts. So we've looked at the academic year, we've looked at harvest, we've looked at Halloween, we've looked at bonfire night, all these various things. But of course, there are other things you can do during the autumn months. It's not too late to take the church outdoors, hold an outdoor service, reflect on creation in some ways, or take people off on a walk, stop from time to time with reflections, Christian poetry, or read a passage of scripture, have a prayer, and so on, so that you actually go outside and do things outside. Walking church, you'll find if you Google that information on that. Gordon, you had some young people do something interesting with scavenger hunt?
Simply go out and look around and find bits of twigs, logs, whatever it is, and then come back together and see what kind of sculpture you can create. Just a fabulous way of creativity and drawing together to create something that from the bits and pieces that you found around. Just a good way of getting folks out there in a family group.
Thank you for that, Gordon. And Creative Cafe, you have something to say about that as well?
Absolutely right. Yes, we're coming up to Christmas, so run a cafe in a hall, and with an opportunity for folks to make Christmas cards, crafts, gifts, cakes and decorations. Have a variety of crafts that are a variety of complexity. We're not just talking about stuff that children can stick and glue, but also that adults can get involved, so they will really make some nice Christmas cards and gifts and cakes as well. That one, our own church does that, and it really works very well.
And just to, again, link with this various things, things. One of the villages in which I've ministered put on a pudding festival in the autumn months. This was very popular. We asked everybody in the community to submit their favourite recipe for their favourite pudding and to bring a sample. Not everybody did, which is probably just as well, but we did have 21 puddings. The church provided a first course with an option for vegetarians, and also provided the wine. And we had a great evening celebrating. We took pictures as people brought their puddings in. We took photos of them, and we'd asked them to bring in the recipes, and we kept the recipes with the name of the person that had brought it in, and linked it up with the picture that we had taken. We produced a book of pudding recipes, and we sold it at £5 a time to raise money for the village's favourite charity, which is the Air Ambulance Scheme. It proved very, very popular. Again, it just demonstrates that the church isn't here for itself. It's here to be God's servant, to bring hope and help, blessing and the gospel to others. Now, you've had the opportunity to look at the handouts. Hopefully you've got those. Hopefully you'll find those helpful. Just remind you, there will be a survey immediately at the end of this. There are other webinars, and you're very warmly invited to those. We will contact you as these are arranged, but you can link up with us via Facebook so that you always get the information. So we would recommend the Facebook link for Rural Mission Solutions. And if you like that, if you use Facebook, you know what I mean by liking it, then you get notification. So all of these really helpful webinars. Yeah.
And a question, Barry, there about Advent, and somebody saying making Advent Sunday special. Just to say very quickly, then the thing about Advent that I think is important is that we try and slow down and hold back on the whole sort of Christmas thing. So are there events that you could start off on Advent Sunday that you're actually going to try and hold things down a little bit, inviting people just to come and to sit and to, you know, just that's I think the important thing about Advent as well. It's not a time, as it were, to prepare for Christmas in that way, but just to hold back and think about what we're doing. So yeah, if somebody wants to come back to me on that one, I'm happy to give a little bit more information as well.
So you can always email Gordon the information that you've got. Just to say that this is one of 4 webinars that are seasonal, spring, summer, autumn and winter. So there will be, I think we're planning a date possibly in October, fairly early on in October it would be, and we'll send out the information where we will look at the winter. And we welcome ideas and suggestions. If people like to provide any information, please do. We're only too pleased to hear and receive any information. So here is the main contact information. This is the last screen we're going to show. So if you want to make notes, by all means do. But I want to say thank you so much for coming today. I hope you found it helpful. Please take part in this survey, which will follow shortly. Please make sure you've downloaded everything. If you're watching this on a video after the event and don't have the immediate links, contact us by email. We will send these to you. So thanks again. So from me, God bless you and goodbye.
And God bless and goodbye from Gordon as well.